During the Eastern Palace's consort selection, just as I was about to be chosen as the crown princess, the princess suddenly claimed she had been reborn. She's a calamitous star who lacks feminine virtue. In her past life, it was because Crown Prince brother chose her that he was cuckolded, leading to the fall of our nation and his death without a whole corpse. The emperor flew into a rage and ordered me strangled to death. As I lay dying, the princess leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Fool, who in this world could truly be reborn? This is simply the consequence of your overreach in trying to steal my crown prince brother." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the eve of the talent selection. Didn't they say no one in this world could be reborn? Well, here I am. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Miss, the road ahead is unlucky. Let's take a detour. Hearing these words, I knew I had been reborn. In my previous life, just as the carriage was about to reach the Eastern Palace, we encountered a funeral procession. To seek good fortune, I chose to take a detour. Yet this very detour became the beginning of my tragic fate. The refugees who had been lying in wait swarmed forward and pulled me down from the carriage. They yanked my hair and tore at my clothes. It wasn't like begging for food, but more like stripping me bare for public humiliation. Even though I escaped unscathed in the end, I was left with a reputation of impurity and disgrace. This time, I curled the corners of my lips. No need to take a detour, let's go this way. I'm making this trip precisely to visit the graves. How can you call it unlucky to encounter a funeral procession? At the Eastern Palace gate, Princess Wanla frowned slightly upon seeing me. Clearly, she wanted to pour the foot-washing water on me again, just like in my past life. Then she spoke with an air of superiority. How dare someone as filthy and unclean as you come to the Eastern Palace for the selection? This princess bestows upon you this foot-washing water to cleanse your filth. It is a great favor. Kneel and give thanks. At the entrance of the Eastern Palace, people came and went, robbed by refugees on the road, now publicly humiliated. In my past life, I lost my composure. I hastily explained that my servants had rescued me in time and nothing had happened. But Princess Wanla merely waved her hand dismissively. The innocent need no defense, only the guilty feel compelled to explain. This princess has no time for your lies. The auspicious hour for the imperial selection was approaching, so I had no choice but to compromise and go bathe first. I thought as long as I could participate in the selection, all problems would be resolved, because when the current emperor was conquering the realm, he and my father were sworn brothers. Later, my father took several sword wounds to save the emperor and could never stand again, forcing him to retire and return home. The emperor promised that one day he would become family with my father through marriage. Among the imperial princes of suitable age, there was only the crown prince. Now that I've been invited to the Eastern Palace to participate in the selection, it's certain that I'll become the crown princess. Who would have thought that my compromise, choosing to bathe and change clothes, would play right into Princess Wanla's poisonous scheme? By the time I finished bathing and rushed to the grand hall, I was already terribly late. The usually gentle crown prince was growing somewhat impatient. The empress's gaze toward me also held a hint of reproach. "Young lady, you're usually the most proper one. Why are you so late today?" Wanla cut in before I could speak, her tone dripping with sarcasm. What else could it be? Our kind Miss Sue was so generous in helping disaster victims along the way that she barely had time to dress properly before arriving at the Eastern Palace. Out of pity, I specifically allowed her to bathe, otherwise, she might have offended everyone's eyes with her disheveled state. The crown prince's face darkened, and the Empress Dowager frowned deeply. "This is the Eastern Palace's selection ceremony. How dare you speak such nonsense?" She pouted reluctantly with a sullen expression. I thought this matter was finally over, yet when the crown prince handed me the peony symbolizing the principal consort, she suddenly clutched her forehead and collapsed. The first thing she did upon waking was point at me and scream, "Stay away from me. You've already destroyed my family. What more do you want? Heaven has eyes. Since I've been given a second chance at life, I'll never let you harm my family or bring disaster to Great Yong again." Everyone, including the crown prince, thought she had gone mad, yet no one expected her to accurately predict a military mutiny in Shirojo that would occur just 4 hours later. Then I screamed when the crown prince chose me as his consort. She's nothing but a calamitous star who lacks feminine virtue. In our past life, it was precisely because the crown prince chose her that he was cuckolded, leading to the fall of our nation and his death without a whole corpse. If you don't believe me, look at her right waist. There's a peach blossom birthmark that appears when exposed to heat. In our past life, when she committed treason and adultery and was paraded through the streets, everyone saw it. The crown prince's gaze toward me instantly changed. The emperor, who had rushed over upon hearing the news, gave me no chance to explain and presented me with only one choice: to take my own life in atonement, or face execution by hanging. I found Wanla's claims utterly absurd. As I bore no peach blossom birthmark whatsoever, and pleaded with the emperor for justice, when the matron examined me, a birthmark inexplicably appeared on my lower back. During the selection process, being pulled off the carriage by refugees became irrefutable proof of my wanton and frivolous nature. With so many noble ladies participating in the selection, why were you the only one who encountered refugees? Moreover, we've never heard of them daring to pull noble women from their carriages before. How did you alone end up being dragged down? Wanla raised her chin, her face full of disdain. It's clear that you're inherently wanton, giving those men the opportunity to take advantage. No wonder you'll later commit adultery and cuckold the crown prince. At that very moment, a mountain fire suddenly broke out in the southwestern outskirts of the capital. The imperial astronomers calculated that it was because a calamitous star was about to enter the Eastern Palace, and the birth characters of this ill-fated star were buried beneath the flower beds of the Eastern Palace, and those birth characters turned out to be mine. The emperor was furious and had me strangled without even informing my family. As I lay dying, I desperately grabbed at Princess Wanla's sleeve. I wanted to ask her, did I truly commit such sins in my past life? To my surprise, she doubled over with laughter. You fool, who in this world has ever been reborn? Serves you right for overestimating yourself and trying to steal my crown prince brother. I was so furious I could vomit blood, yet couldn't utter another word. Heaven has eyes. Since it's given me this chance to be reborn, then I'll teach her what rebirth truly means. Consciousness returned, looking at the murky, foul-smelling foot-washing water. I nimbly dodged it. The cascading water splashed onto the ground with a loud splat. It caught everyone's attention. The noble ladies asked in surprise, "Miss Sue's hair looks just slightly disheveled, nothing improper. Why would your highness ask her to go wash up and change clothes?" Wenla was usually quick to anger, but now she let out a sigh. Don't you know, Miss Sue was pulled off her carriage by refugees on her way to the Eastern Palace. I shouldn't have interfered, but today is, after all, the crown prince's selection of consorts. I couldn't let an unclean woman participate. The term unclean carried a double meaning. The noble lady's gazes toward me changed in an instant. There was disgust, schadenfreude, and even pity. I asked in astonishment, "May I ask your highness, what wrong have I committed to be deemed unchaste and impure, and why am I barred from entering the Eastern Palace?" Wenla let out a cold laugh. "Do you really think I don't know what happened to you on the road, pulling and tugging with a bunch of filthy men? You're even worse than the flower girls from the brothels, and yet you still have the audacity to compete for the crown princess position. How laughable." I found it laughable too. If I had truly been dragged off the carriage by refugees, how could I have arrived at the Eastern Palace so quickly? Wanla remained utterly unaware, speaking with lofty condescension. "Out of consideration that we're both women, I won't stoop to your level. As long as you withdraw from the imperial consort selection, I'll have His Highness the Crown Prince pardon your offense against feminine virtues, and even arrange an exceptionally good marriage for you. How about that?" Watching her put on this show of magnanimity, I asked with feigned innocence, "Your Highness, why are you so certain something happened to me on my way to the Eastern Palace? Could it truly be, as the rumors say, that Her Highness the Princess harbors feelings for the Crown Prince that go beyond sibling affection, which is why she's been keeping such a close watch on the selection of imperial consorts?" The noble ladies frowned upon hearing this remark. The entire Great Yong knew that the Crown Prince and Princess Wanla were born of the same mother, mere moments apart. Thus, the Crown Prince doted on Princess Wanla excessively, while the princess herself possessed an almost obsessive possessiveness toward him. Any woman who got close to the crown prince was executed by Wanla under various pretexts. I was the first to openly expose her true intentions to her face. Wanla's expression changed instantly as she flustered. "What nonsense are you spouting?" He immediately raised his whip to strike me. It looked fierce, but in truth, he didn't put much force behind it. He just wanted to scare me. After all, in the Eastern Palace, seriously injuring a palace maiden is no trivial matter. I could have easily avoided it, yet I stepped forward to meet it, then naturally went to treat my wounds, and to bathe and change clothes. Enla thought it was my guilty conscience and burst into laughter. "Miss Sue, you should come back early. Today is your big day." I laughed too. Today is your big day instead. Just like in my past life, I entered the grand hall and missed the auspicious hour. The queen frowned and scolded me for lacking propriety. Wanla quickly interjected before I could speak. "Mother, please don't blame her. Miss Sue was generously helping disaster victims on her way to the Eastern Palace by giving away her clothes. When I saw her, her garments weren't even properly arranged. I took pity on her and specifically allowed her to bathe, which is why she was delayed. Why must your highness cover for her? Clearly she behaved wantonly. Being pulled off her carriage by refugees, who knows what really happened, and she still dares come to the Eastern Palace for the selection." The speaker was Wanla's loyal servant, the legitimate daughter of the director of the Imperial Observatory. When she learned that the Emperor had specifically sent me to the Eastern Palace for the selection, she repeatedly made things difficult for me. Now, thinking she had stepped on my tail, she smugly raised her chin. Ruining one's reputation isn't like committing murder or arson. It's not such a terrible matter. But today is, after all, the Eastern Palace's selection, meant to choose models of virtue for all women in the realm. As you are now, you truly aren't worthy. I raised an eyebrow. A model for women under heaven. As long as one is human, character should be valued first and virtue prioritized. I admit I've never compromised either. Why am I unworthy? She choked, left speechless. After all, though my father was recuperating at home without real power, he still held the title of Duke, and I, having studied under a great Confucian scholar, had long been renowned for my talent while frequently practicing charity. Even the highly respected abbot praised my benevolence, who could claim my character was lacking. While moral character is naturally valued in all people, women bear an additional responsibility, feminine virtue. Miss Sue, in this regard alone, you are found wanting. Enla covered her lips with a light chuckle, displaying rare poise. The other noble ladies present quickly voiced their agreement. Indeed, a woman's foundation lies in cultivating feminine virtue, and of feminine virtues, reputation is paramount. Miss Sue, after what has transpired, you should reflect on your faults. It would be best for you to return home now rather than make unreasonable demands. I was utterly astonished. What has happened? How could I not know? Wanla let out a soft sigh. As if utterly helpless. Miss Sue, must I spell it out for you? I know you're unwilling to accept it, but the matter has already clearly occurred. Rather than trying to silence the gossiping crowd, you do better to reflect on whether your own conduct has been too frivolous, bringing such misfortune upon yourself. I also sighed, my face filled with sorrow. I truly do not know how I have offended your highness to be humiliated like this. Since your highness speaks of how women should prioritize virtue, you should know that slandering someone's reputation without evidence is a grave sin. Or is it because of your noble status as a princess that you are exempt from upholding such virtues? As soon as my words fell, the hall fell into silence, soon followed by hushed whispers. That's right, Her Highness has spoken at length but hasn't produced any evidence. Could it really be slander? Though the princess holds a noble status, she herself has said that women should prioritize feminine virtues. It's improper to tarnish someone's reputation with mere words. The selection of concubines didn't necessarily require the presence of noble women and officials. It was Wanla who proposed that the East Palace's selection of concubines concerned the foundation of the state, hence so many people came to ensure fairness and impartiality. Now all the accusations fall upon her. She could no longer maintain her dignified facade and pointed at me, cursing loudly. You shameless wretch, even now, you still dare to act tough. This morning, when you came to the Eastern Palace, you were dragged off your carriage by a group of refugees, your clothes in disarray. Your reputation ruined. Everyone in Wanhua Alley knows about it. How dare you pretend to be innocent? Must I summon witnesses to prove it? Her words sent shockwaves through the crowd. Everyone turned to look at me with complicated expressions. After all, the emperor himself had personally promised the marriage. Everyone knew the selection process was merely a formality. Yet at this critical moment, such a thing happened to me. Sure. I calmly looked at Wanla. Since your highness keeps insisting that I've lost my virtue, then please bring forth the witnesses. But if I'm proven innocent, your highness would be guilty of slander. Such unbecoming behavior for a woman of virtue, how should that be addressed? Wanla let out a cold laugh. If you're innocent, then I'll kneel and apologize to you. But if you're guilty, you'll crawl out of the palace on your knees, shouting that you're a shameless, unchaste wretch unworthy of my brother the crown prince. How about that? What a vicious wager. A minister spoke up in opposition. One is a princess of the dynasty, the other a noble daughter from a prestigious family. How can they engage in such vulgar gambling? If word spreads, wouldn't it become a laughingstock? Yet the crown prince, who had remained silent for a long time, said, "Let it be so. I believe Wanla is not a woman with a malicious heart who would ruin another's reputation." Though not a single word was mentioned about me, their attitude toward me was already quite clear. After all, though my father holds the title of duke, he wields no real power. He didn't want a crown princess like me who was of no help to him. He probably wished something would happen to me, so he could rightfully abandon me. Everyone averted their eyes and kept their distance from me. I simply smiled faintly. Okay. Wanla's smile grew increasingly smug, utterly convinced she would ruin my reputation and make my life a living hell. But soon, her laughter died. Every witness she brought forward claimed they'd never seen me. Nonsense. How could she not have been in that alley? As if she had thought of something. Wanla gritted her teeth and sneered. I never thought you'd be someone unafraid of bad luck. But what does it matter? Stepping out only to run into a funeral procession. Miss Su, you truly are ill-omened. In my past life, it was precisely this kind of ill-omened accusation that had been pinned on me, leaving me with no chance to turn the tables. I never expected it to happen ahead of schedule this time. But it's understandable. Wanla's witness actually proved my innocence. This clearly shows she was framing me. To save face, she'd naturally go out of her way to bring me down. The crown prince frowned, clearly about to speak in Wanla's defense. But I'm not mute either. I spoke first. Your highness seems remarkably well informed about my journey to the Eastern Palace. Though I never detoured through Wanhua Alley to encounter refugees, you insist I was pulled from my carriage by them. Now you even know I encountered a funeral procession. How truly extraordinary. One might think the funeral procession and refugees were all arranged by your highness. Since Wanla's summoned witnesses proved my innocence, the great hall had fallen completely silent. Now with my words, you could hear a pin drop. The gazes directed at Wanla were clearly filled with shock and apprehension. As expected, Wanla was about to kneel and apologize to me. However, the Empress, who had been resting with her eyes closed since Wanla began targeting me, suddenly spoke up. Enough, it's just playful banter between young ladies. The fun's been had, now it's time to get down to serious matters. The Crown Prince also smiled and said, Indeed, it's merely harmless squabbles between girls. Miss Su has always been understanding. Surely she won't hold on to this, will she? Everyone exchanged glances, looking at me with eyes full of sympathy. Is there anything else you don't understand? The Queen and the Crown Prince would naturally shield their own. As the unlucky one, I could only swallow my bitterness in silence. Wanla glanced at me smugly, her malice undisguised. Did you hear that, Miss Su? It's just playful fun. You'd better watch your life next time. The game might be played with your very existence. I met her gaze, narrowing my eyes slightly. Then let's see whose life becomes the plaything, just as in my past life. The Crown Prince handed me the peony symbolizing the position of Crown Princess. Before I could reach out to take it, Wanla let out a startled cry and fainted to the ground. Without hesitation, the Crown Prince discarded the peony and anxiously gathered Wanla into his arms. Completely disregarding propriety between men and women, the noble lady's expressions shifted, their gazes toward me growing increasingly complicated. It seems he has completely realized how murky and treacherous the waters of the Eastern Palace are. Stepping in could cost him his life. The selection process should have been called off, yet the Empress said, today was chosen as an auspicious day through divination. Who knows how long we'd have to wait for the next one? Since you're all already here, you might as well stay a while longer. Then, she gave me a meaningful glance. I watched as imperial physicians came and went. Yet none could diagnose the illness. I couldn't help but laugh. They really went to great lengths to deal with me. Naturally, I couldn't let everyone down. When Wanla woke up and pretended to be terrified while pointing at me and shouting, I didn't hold back either, shedding copious tears. Your Highness, I know your noble person is too precious to kneel and apologize to me, but why resort to such methods? Confucius taught us not to speak of uncanny forces and spiritual chaos. If this spreads panic among the people and shakes the foundation of the state, what are we to do? Before Wanla could retort, I sighed helplessly again. How exalted your Highness is. This humble subject never dreamed of holding you to your promise. Why must you go to such lengths? Everyone present in this hall was a shrewd old fox who had seen through worldly affairs. Though their faces showed nothing, their eyes were filled with skepticism about Wanla's claim of rebirth. Even the crown prince who doted on her furrowed his brows. Wanla, don't be unreasonable. It was practically an open accusation not to pretend to be reborn. Wanla's eyes instantly reddened. I truly have been reborn. If you don't believe me, look at her right waist. There's definitely a peach blossom birthmark that appears when heated. If I hadn't been reborn, how would I know such a private detail? She will treat you like that in the future, yet you still choose to side with her. The crown prince remained silent. I knew this wasn't because the crown prince wanted to take my side, but Wanla said the timing of her rebirth was wrong. If I had truly been pulled off the carriage by refugees, then her words and actions would have been justified. Yet I was innocent, while she appeared suspicious of harming me. Moreover, she broke the bet first, making her rebirth full of loopholes. Yet she remained lost in her own world, glaring at me viciously. If you're so convinced I'm pretending to be reborn, then dare you let everyone see if there's a birthmark on your lower back. I fell silent. Wanla instantly became as excited as if injected with adrenaline. What, afraid? If you had the audacity to commit adultery, betray Daong, and consort with enemy generals, why don't you have the guts to admit your treacherous schemes? Before I could speak, he ordered the palace attendants to force me down. Naturally, my face turned pale. Tears streaming down like rain, filled with unbearable grievance. Everything is just a word from your Highness, whether it's being dragged from the carriage by refugees or now being accused of future treachery. How have I offended your Highness to deserve such hatred? Publicly inspecting someone's birthmark, even a condemned criminal shouldn't suffer such humiliation. Your Highness preaches the importance of feminine virtue. Is this how you uphold it? Today your Highness has ruined my reputation and my entire life for personal desires. Who will you do this to next? The noble ladies who had remained indifferent now furrowed their brows in unison. The court matrons also wore complicated expressions. Your Highness's actions are indeed improper. After all, Miss Su is an unmarried maiden. How could she expose her body in public? Moreover, this talk of rebirth is far too fantastical. We beg your pardon but cannot bring ourselves to believe it. Facing a declining household with neither power nor influence, Wanla could casually humiliate and bully me, but noble women were not people she could afford to offend, so she immediately straightened her back and spoke calmly. I'm not speaking nonsense. Since everyone wants me to prove that I've been reborn, I'll predict something that will happen soon. There will be a mutiny in the Shirojo military camp this morning, leading to a military disaster. Everyone's expressions changed instantly. Because Shirojo was hundreds of miles from the capital, even with urgent military reports, it would take several hours for the news to arrive. Now, if even His Majesty hasn't received any news, how could Princess Wanla, a sheltered young lady, possibly know about it? Wanla was extremely pleased with everyone's reaction and smiled as she spoke. If there truly comes news of a mutiny, it will prove that I was reborn. Then, if Miss Su indeed has a birthmark on her right waist, wouldn't that confirm what I said, that in the future she would commit adultery and betray her country is true? Of course I do. A booming voice rang out. It was the elderly censor Wang. His gaze held pity when he looked at me, but deeper still was wariness. The safety of the dynasty must not be taken lightly. If Miss Su truly bears the fate of a calamitous star, then she should be executed immediately to eliminate future troubles. At that very moment, news arrived from outside. A mutiny broke out in the Shirojo military camp this morning, resulting in hundreds of casualties. His Majesty has already dispatched generals to suppress the rebellion. The hall fell silent at first, then erupted into heated debate. Princess Wanla is truly reborn. Does this mean Great Yong will be destroyed by Su Qingshu's hands? She's just a mere woman, how could she possibly have such power? Didn't you hear what Princess Wanla said? Su Qingshu will consort with enemy generals and betray the nation. If she were merely Su Qingshu, it wouldn't be a great disaster, but if she becomes the crown princess, then we are truly doomed. Indeed, since heaven has granted us this foreknowledge, we cannot allow the empire to collapse and the people to suffer. Su Qingshu must die. Wenla stood upon the jade platform, looking down at me from her lofty position. In that case, Miss Su, remove your clothes and let everyone see if you bear the peach blossom birthmark that appears when exposed to heat. To undress before the crowd and prove my innocence. Even if I were truly innocent, by then I would still have lost all dignity. A noblewoman frowned and whispered, those matters have not yet come to pass. So Miss Su remains innocent, but if she bears no peach blossom birthmark yet bears her body before all, how could she continue to live with dignity afterward? Indeed, verification need not be done publicly. Why not have Miss Su accompany us to the inner chamber for examination? With so many of us present, there's no possibility of favoritism. Wanla naturally disagreed. What she wanted was my complete ruin. But the Empress had the final say. Su Qingshu, you shall accompany everyone to the inner chamber for examination. If you truly bear the peach blossom birthmark that appears when heated, don't blame this princess for being merciless. As she was being escorted to the inner chamber, she brushed past Wanla. Wanla sneered, Su Qingshu, you're doomed. I laughed too. Don't speak too soon, princess. Don't forget you still owe me a kneeling apology. Wanla's smile froze instantly, but I laughed even more heartily, because this time, I want more than just your kneeling apology. Soon, I emerged from the inner chamber with the noblewomen. The emperor was revived by Wanla's rebirth, and the prophecy of my bringing calamity to the nation was invoked. Upon seeing me, his expression turned complicated. Lady Su, your father once saved my life, and I should have treated you well, fulfilling my promise to make you the crown princess. But as the Emperor of Daeong, I bear the responsibility for the safety of all under heaven. I cannot be bound by personal gratitude alone. If you truly prove to be an ill omen threatening the nation, do not blame me for taking your life. Such high-sounding words, using the people of the realm as justification. Naturally, I should tremble with fear and gratitude. Since childhood, I have studied the teachings of sages and been guided by my parents, always holding your Majesty, Daeong, and the people of the world close to my heart. If I am indeed a harbinger of disaster, for the sake of the nation and its people, I am willing to face death. All present were moved by my loyalty and righteousness. Some even remarked, such a virtuous woman truly exemplifies what all women should aspire to be. How could she possibly be as shameless as Princess Wanla claimed? Could it be that Princess Wanla was lying? One doubt followed another in quick succession. No matter how free or noble one might be on the streets or in the wilderness, within these grand halls, all are but insignificant ants. Who can guarantee it won't be me next? Wanla panicked instantly, shouting, if you truly care about the people, then go die right now. She then turned to the emperor and said, Father, execute her immediately, or the Great Yong dynasty will be ruined. The crown prince also looked pained as he said, Miss Su is innocent. But father, when it concerns the nation's fate, it's better to kill the wrong person than let the guilty go. His Majesty looked at me and slightly closed his eyes. Bring the poisoned wine. Wanla instantly let out a sigh of relief. Yet, the next moment, the Marchioness of Zhongyong knelt down. Miss Su does not possess the peach blossom birthmark that appears when wet. The minister's wife, a first-rank titled noblewoman, also knelt to plead. Miss Su truly lacks the peach blossom birthmark that reveals itself in water. This subject saw it clearly with her own eyes. As this concerns living human lives, We implore your majesty to reconsider. Wenla froze in disbelief. How could this be? With that, she reached to lift my garments, but the empress ordered her to be restrained. Everyone assumed it was to punish Wenla. Unexpectedly, the empress said to me, Wanla has a childish temperament and is extremely stubborn. Miss Su, why not let her take a look, so she can give up? I went back into the inner chamber again, watching my flawless skin. Wanla's face darkened as if it could wring out water. When did you find out? I tilted my head slightly. Your Highness, if you weren't reborn, how could you not know this? In my past life, I died precisely because of this birthmark that was outlined by a palace made using special pigments. In this life, how could I possibly let it happen again? Of course it was after the palace maid drugged me during my bath, painted on that birthmark while I was unconscious, and then secretly wiped it off. Wanla's face turned ashen, but soon she smiled again. What does it matter if you escaped this time? If I want you dead, you'll die. I knew then. The mountain fire in the southwestern outskirts of the capital had begun to blaze. The imperial astronomer declared with the same certainty as in his past life that this mountain fire was a divine punishment, because a calamitous star had entered the eastern palace, and its birth chart was buried in the earth at the Kuan position southwest of the palace. Everyone turned to look at me, as if certain that I was that calamitous star. Though the emperor's expression remained calm, I could see intense murderous intent in his eyes. Wenla watched me with malicious glee. Su Qingshu, I told you, if I want you dead, you will die. When the paper inscribed with my birth characters was presented, Wenla couldn't wait to order the poisoned wine brought before me. Miss Su, out of respect for our shared womanhood, I'll grant you a dignified end. May your next life be spent cultivating virtue. Never again be this wanton, scheming viper of a woman. But everyone was looking at her with strange expressions, including the crown prince, yet she remained completely oblivious, impatiently ordering the palace attendants to pin me down. Su Qingshu, I gave you a chance, but you insisted on resisting to the end, unwilling to drink the poisoned wine. Is that it? Guards, strangle her to death on my command. The palace maids exchanged glances. Not daring to move, Wanla flew into a rage. Are you all deaf? Do it now, or you'll die in her place. Only then did the maids begin advancing toward me. Su Qingshu let out a long sigh of relief, her smile radiant and bright. Miss Su, take care on your way. Yet the next moment, a resounding slap landed on her face. She fell heavily to the ground, looking up in disbelief. Father Emperor, why do you strike your son? Your son acts for the sake of the nation's future. That Su Chong presumes upon your gratitude. Occupying the position of duke is one thing, but to dare imagine his daughter marrying crown prince brother, coveting the eastern palace, who knows if that military disaster back then was deliberately orchestrated by him, just to claim credit for saving your majesty's life. The emperor's face grew darker, while the court officials exchanged glances before bowing their heads deeply. For the true culprit behind that disastrous defeat was none other than His Majesty himself. He was reckless in his pursuit of merit, promoted treacherous officials, and ignored all warnings. That's why he ended up surrounded. But since he was the emperor, none of the blame could fall on him. The history books would later claim that the scouts had been bribed, colluded with the enemy, and delivered false reports. How dare you? The emperor roared in anger and struck another slap. Wanla was filled with grievance and wanted to argue further, but the crown prince suddenly pulled her back, as if finding her pillar of support. Wanla hugged the crown prince and burst into tears, their limbs entwined in intimate embrace. The noble women and courtiers in the hall looked embarrassed, turning their faces away one after another. The emperor, furious beyond measure, flung the paper bearing the birth characters straight at her face. Xiao Wu, I thought you were merely mischievous. Never did I imagine you'd prove to be a calamitous star. If moments ago, the emperor still harbored some leniency towards Wanla, now, His Majesty was genuinely furious, ready to disown this daughter. After all, the crown prince of a nation must remain utterly unblemished. Wenla stared blankly at the slip of paper. Written boldly upon it was her own birth chart. This can't be. Why is this my birth chart? This should clearly be Su Qingshu's birth chart. Was it you, Su Qingshu? Did you tamper with this somehow? No, how could you possibly know about the buried 8 characters? Did someone tip you off? I crouched before her, slowly curling my lips as I whispered words only she could hear. I was the one who replaced them. No one tipped me off, Your Highness the noble princess, because I've been reborn. Wanla froze, then pushed me away with force. Impossible. You're lying. How could anyone be reborn in this world? I smiled. How could there not be people who are reborn? Didn't Your Highness keep insisting that you yourself were reborn? Wanla's face turned deathly pale as she guiltily bit her lower lip. The situation couldn't be clearer now. The elderly imperial censor Wang coughed lightly, his face full of disappointment. Your Highness, as a noble princess of the imperial family, you should cultivate virtue above all else. How could you lie about being reborn and slander Miss Su? Since it concerned the imperial family, everyone had remained silent, not daring to speak out. Hearing Censor Wang's words, they all began to murmur and discuss. Indeed, Princess Wanla, for your own selfish desires, you nearly cost a life. How can someone so cruel be worthy of the people's devotion? Some even proposed stripping Princess Wanla of her title and punishing her severely, but the Empress rose to her feet. Shielding Wanla behind her, Wanla is still young and merely enjoys mischief. No real harm was done, so let this matter rest. I will punish her with confinement to reflect on her actions. Such a life-threatening matter was once again dismissed by the Empress as mere child's play. The Crown Prince also chimed in. Wanla just suffered a shock and fainted. Everyone saw it clearly. It's understandable if she speaks nonsense upon waking. Why make things difficult for her? Then he looked straight at me, his words laced with undisguised threat. Miss Su, surely you wouldn't be petty enough to hold a grudge against someone who's unwell. Wanla, who had been hanging her head in guilt moments earlier, now lifted her face again, clutching the prince's arm. She laughed with unbridled arrogance and triumph. The noble ladies exchanged glances, their eyes filled with sorrow. Is it because Miss Su is to become the crown princess that His Highness is treating her this way? If so, we dare not marry into the crown prince's household. We beg your majesty to allow us to return home. Indeed, His Highness the crown prince is of noble status, and Her Highness the princess is of imperial blood. Their sibling bond is deep, and no outsider can come between them. This humble daughter is unworthy of such an exalted match. I beg your majesty to allow me to withdraw from the selection and return home. The noble matrons also came forward one after another to request permission for their daughters to withdraw. The Empress still wanted to say something, but the Emperor roared in anger. Are you not ashamed enough? Guards, Princess Wanla is malicious-hearted, full of lies, and ill-behaved. She is hereby stripped of her royal title and reduced to commoner status. The Crown Prince frowned. Father, isn't this punishment too severe? The Emperor gave him a cold glance. Are you questioning us? Then he turned to me with a kindly expression. Good child, you've suffered injustice. We shall surely compensate you. Would you be willing to become the Crown Princess? If not, tell me what you desire, and I shall grant it. I forced a smile. Of course I was unwilling. Yet what I truly want you would never give me. I glanced at the Crown Prince, feigning shyness as I bowed deeply. This humble maiden is willing to marry His Highness and become the Crown Princess. Wanla widened her eyes in shock, wanting to curse me, but the Empress firmly restrained her. She could only look tearfully at the Crown Prince, begging him to refuse. Yet the Crown Prince remained silent. I smiled. It seems the so-called deep sibling affection wasn't that profound after all. The day before the wedding, my father's clouded eyes brimmed with unshed tears. It was father who failed you, who couldn't live up to your mother's dying wish to protect you. Back then, father lay gravely wounded and unconscious. Mother never changed her clothes, tending to him without rest for 3 full years. Later, father finally awoke, but mother's health had broken. Not long after, she passed away. I clenched my fists. Father has never wronged me. As for those who have wronged us, I will make them pay in blood. My father froze. Wanting to say something, I grasped his bony, emaciated hand. Daughter knows father's old comrades still worry about you and often wish to visit. But you fear displeasing His Majesty and dare not grow close to them. But now that my daughter is about to enter the palace, she needs her father's support. As a young woman, Wanla naturally wouldn't know about military camp affairs, nor could she persuade the director of the Imperial Observatory to lie. So in my past life, I truly believed she had been reborn. Only at death's door did I realize it was never just one person who wanted me dead. My father remained silent for a long while before finally grasping my hand in return. Only then did I leave with peace of mind. Wedding night. The crown prince stood 3 paces away from me, his expression cold. I have no romantic feelings for you. If you know what
was hiding in the Eastern Palace and had stabbed me had already spread. Originally, the crown prince could still protect Wanla, but the imperial physician said I was already 3 months pregnant and nearly had a miscarriage. Now the empress has stepped in, demanding Wanla's execution. After all, what is an adopted daughter compared to her own grandson? Back then, the empress had given birth to twins, but twins were considered inauspicious. So the empress smothered the younger brother, but since the imperial physician had already confirmed the twin pregnancy, she hastily brought in a girl from her maternal family to pose as the second child. This was Wanla. Upon learning she was to be executed, Wanla wailed bitterly, clinging desperately to the empress's legs, but the empress kept her eyes shut, coldly ordering the palace maids to drag her away. The crown prince clenched his fists, his face filled with reluctance, before he could speak. I cut in first. After all, nothing serious happened to me. Sister Wanla surely didn't mean any harm, so let's just let this matter rest. The empress glanced at me and ultimately spared Wanla's life, sending her far away to a distant land. The crown prince gazed at me deeply for a long while. At night, he took out scissors, cut off a lock of his hair, and tied it together with mine, looking at me with immense guilt. A woman as kind, generous, gentle, and wise as you, I was a fool before. And I wronged you. From now on, can we live well together? Naturally, I replied with a smile. Haven't we been living well all along? The crown prince grew even more remorseful, holding me tightly in his arms as if I were a priceless treasure. I gave a cold laugh. Since you've wronged me, then compensate me with something good. 2 more years passed, and the emperor fell gravely ill beyond cure, passing the throne to the crown prince. I was then enfeoffed as empress. Many beauties entered the palace. The crown prince, no, his majesty now, has grown increasingly distant toward me. My thoughts keep drifting to Wanla, who remains thousands of miles away. Before long, a frail beauty appeared in the palace. She was gentle to all except for me and the empress dowager. Her gaze laced with venom when she looked our way. Every time we meet, you always manage to sprain your ankle, fall down, and suffer a series of misfortunes. The emperor was heartbroken and furious, calling me a venomous woman, saying he had misjudged me that day and should never have made me his empress. The beauty's eyes instantly lit up, watching the 2 of them embrace each other, so intimate and inseparable. I recall scenes from the Eastern Palace's selection ceremony several years ago, narrowing my eyes. It's good to be back, then let's die together, perhaps to compensate for the suffering Wanla had endured over the years. The emperor repeatedly elevated her status, and within just a few months, she became the imperial noble consort. He accompanied Wanla every day, showing her immense affection. All those who offended Wanla met with terrible fates. Even the empress dowager, the emperor's own mother, was sent to a temple to live in seclusion. As for me, I was frequently reprimanded. It was said that the edict deposing the empress had already been placed on the desk in Chengqian Palace. The entire harem was momentarily thrown into panic. Some concubines came to me to pour out their grievances. I smiled. It won't be long now. The imperial harem, and indeed this entire realm, will soon be cleansed. On New Year's Eve, amidst the festive jubilation, an ominous calamity befell the noble consort's palace. The emperor died upon the noble consort's bed. By the time I arrived, Wanla still clung tightly to the emperor, refusing to let go, her sobs hysterical. Upon seeing me, she begged me to save him. I coldly brushed her hand away. The imperial noble consort has violated feminine virtue, bewitched our sovereign, and caused his majesty's death. Guards, bring the poisoned wine. Wanla was stunned. What nonsense are you talking? I didn't harm my brother, he just fainted. He's not dead. Hurry and summon the imperial physician. I looked at her and said with a smile, you shameless wretch, even now you still refuse to admit it. The emperor died right in your bed, yet you have the audacity to pretend innocence. Must I summon the palace maids to testify against you? Imperial noble consort, I gave you a chance. Since you refuse the poisoned wine, so be it. Guards, strangle her to death for me. Imperial noble consort, out of compassion for our shared womanhood, I shall grant you a dignified end. May you cultivate virtue in your next life, and never again become such a wanton, scheming viper of a woman. Wanla stiffened her neck, her face contorted with fury, at these words. Her complexion turned deathly pale, shivering for a long time, unable to speak. I know you hate me, but he is also your husband, the father of your son. Will you truly abandon him? I smiled faintly and stepped out of the hall, wiped away non-existent tears. The emperor has passed away. The hall echoed with venomous curses, then desperate cries for help, before falling into silence. At daybreak, I led the young prince before the assembled ministers, with a gaze that surveyed all beneath heaven. None could rival his noble majesty. No one dares call me a jinx anymore, nor does anyone dare impose feminine virtues upon me. I am human, a woman. I cultivate virtue, not submissive femininity. I am a woman, yet I can also reign as a dynasty's sovereign, the woman who reigns supreme over all men.